Hi, I'm Tony. Welcome to Sports Bike Shop's review of the HJC i91 helmet. The i91 is HJC's second level flip front helmet. It comes in above the entry level C91N and it gives a bit of extra class of finish. It's a decent flip for a decent price that has left owners pretty happy in its first year on the market. So let's run through the details, and I'll also give you my experience of wearing this lid out on the road on a Suzuki V-Strom 800DE and a V-Strom 1050. The shell is made from polycarbonate and the i91 is pretty high up in the weight rankings. This size medium weighs in on our scales 1854 grams. We've weighed 43 flips for these review videos and only 3 of them have been heavier than this one. Now, I've not mentioned weight in my riding notes from wearing this helmet, and none of our customer reviewers have made a point of it in what they've written either, but it is only fair to tell you what the scales say. The mechanism for opening the chin bar on this is very simple. Pull out the red button here at the tip of the chin bar and up it comes. You get some firm resistance at the top of its travel, which helps it stay in the raised position. There's no locking switch on the i91 to absolutely fix the chin bar up, but it is still dual homologated, and that means it's legal to wear the i91 with the chin bar raised, as it's been tested in this configuration as an open face lid. When the chin bar is lowered again, it secures back into position with a reassuring click and make sure you know it's properly in place. Okay, let's move on to the vents. There's a single slider at the chin. Opening that allows air to travel through the top of the chin bar and out in front of the breath guard. This refreshes the inside of the eye port, but I didn't find it delivered a noticeable flow of air directly to my face. I wear specs when I'm riding, and this didn't flow enough air to keep those glasses free of mist. That meant fiddling around with the visor to get some air in, and I'll get onto that in a little bit more detail shortly. Thankfully, the top vent is a lot more dramatic in its effect. When I poke around inside here with a torch to try and see how the air is routed, it looks as though it's not going to be much cop at all. But in use, it's actually very good. Often, relatively budget helmets like this are quite poor performers on venting, but the top vent of this i91 is unusually good for a helmet of this price. Right, time to discuss the visor, and this is where I had issues with the i91, and I'm confident I'm not alone in this. There's only one proper intermediate stage between fully open and fully closed, and I could not get the visor to stay in that position if I went much above 50 miles an hour and riding the V-Strom 1050, which does have a pretty tall screen. Get to about 53 or 54 miles an hour and the visor would just slam shut. And that was in relatively still conditions. On one windy night, I couldn't get above 40 miles an hour before that just came closed on me. That would have been okay if the chin vent flowed enough air to stop my specs misting up, but it didn't. And that meant constantly lifting the visor to let some air into clean of the glasses before it dropped and needed lifting again. This is probably only a criticism if you ride in winter weather like I faced on that night. Now, the visor is easy to change. I can't argue with the description of it as rapid fire. It takes about 10 seconds for me to remove it and refit it, and that makes it really easy to take it off and fit the Pinlock 70 anti-mist insert that comes in the box. It's even easy to adjust the tension of the Pinlock if you need to, as these external screws alter the distance between the pins to increase or decrease the tension. There's a sun visor with the helmet, which runs on a switch on the left rim of the helmet. The tint level from the sun visor is good, and so is the depth of coverage. Now, if you find the depth isn't right for you, then it's worth removing this cover on the left side of the lid. There's a switch behind here that dictates the drop level of the sun visor. If that switch is at the top of its travel, then you've got the full range of drop available to you. If it's at the bottom, you've got the least, and there's another position for that switch in the middle that gives you, yeah, you've guessed it, the middle amount of drop. Even with the least amount of drop available, it's still good coverage. It's just that the maximum level of drop, which is what you see here, is just about the most comprehensive coverage of any sun visor around. That sun visor is also coated to protect against misting. I did experience some misting when riding in the full depths of winter, but it still performed okay, and it's only fair to point out really even the best anti-fog coatings will get overpowered sometimes. Now then, let's go inside. The interior material is described by HJC as super cool. That's their term for an antibacterial covering that wicks moisture away from your skin if you get hot. It is quite nice, and it's a step up from the most basic helmet liner fabrics, but I wouldn't say it's anything really special. It is, though, dead easy to swap it in and out of the helmet, which is good, and there are channels at the base of the cheek pads to house the fastening strap. These and the small collars just here on the base of the pads help reduce noise while riding. It's not something I can be too definitive about because noise is caused by so many other factors other than the shape of the helmet, but I personally didn't find the i91 noisy when I wore it on those couple of different Suzukis. At the top of the cheek pads, there are thin sections that make life easy for spectacle wearers, just here. And when I say easy, I mean really easy. This is the most accommodating helmet I can remember wearing when it comes to accommodating my specs. It's something that crops up in the customer reviews as well, that this is a good helmet for riders who wear glasses. Now that strap fastener, let's just quickly cover that off as well. It's a quick release micrometric buckle, just like virtually every flip helmet around. And behind that lining, you'll find speaker recesses, which brings us on to intercom compatibility. The i91 is designed to accommodate HJC's official intercoms. The 11B is a simple two-way Bluetooth intercom. The 21B is a more sophisticated Bluetooth unit, and the 50B is a top-of-the-range mesh device. They're all made for HJC by Senna, and they all use mounts behind here on the side of the helmet and a port behind the neck roll just here to give you a sleek mounting method. I've used the 21B and the 50B and they're both very good. They fit in neatly, and that means there's less chance of noise because you get a slimmer profile on the sides of the helmet. But lots of people prefer to use their own intercom, either because they've already got one or because they actually prefer Cardo technology to Senna. And setups like this make that harder to do, as the mounts take up the space where you'd be most likely to put a universal intercom. With this helmet, thankfully, the situation isn't too bad for fitting an off-the-shelf system. The recesses inside are big enough to swallow a pair of 40mm Cardo speakers. A pair of 45mm Cardo speakers will also go in there quite neatly. They'll only just sit proud of the surface, so they should be comfortable. That's the first good thing. The second is that a self-adhesive plate for Cardo's pack talk range will stick quite nicely to the shell just here behind the mount for the official comms units. Okay, time for sizing, approvals and pricing. Sizing here in the UK runs from extra small up to double extra large. There are two shell sizes for that range. The smaller shell covers lid sizes from extra small to large, and the bigger one covers XL and 2XL. I found sizing and fit to be consistent with most of HJC's range. They do have some helmets where fit is a bit quirky, but this isn't one of them. My head measures 59 centimeters round, so in theory I should be wearing a large. In reality, I pretty much always wear a medium in all helmets. That was the case with this one, and it was very comfortable for me. All flip fronts feel tighter with the chin bar closed compared with the chin bar raised, but that effect is quite clear on this helmet. It closes significantly around my jaw when I lower the chin bar, but not to the point where it causes discomfort. Now, some people want me to talk about head shape. In theory, mine is closest to what's known as round because it's as broad as it is long, and this helmet suits my head shape well. That doesn't mean you should abandon thoughts of buying one of these if someone's told you your head is a different shape to that. We find HJCs like this fit a wide range of heads, so give it a go before dismissing it. On sizing, our return status shows around 2% of buyers returned theirs to swap size, which is a very low percentage, and it suggests sizing is true to what customers expect. If it helps, returns for the helmet being too large were slightly more common than for it being too small. On approvals, the i91 is approved to ECE 2206 for the road, and it's dual homologated for use as both an open face and a full face. There's no ACU gold sticker for track use, and there's no Sharp rating as we record this. If a rating is published by Sharp, then we'll add the info to the description below. Okay, pricing. As we record this, the i91 is listed at £199.99 in plain colours like this metallic blue. In graphics, it's £30 more at £229.99. When I consider the other flip helmets available for similar money, I think the i91 represents good value for money. Many of the cheaper flips come without a pinlock. I know I need one of those, and by the time that cost is added on, then we're not far off the money of an i91, which comes with the pinlock included. Right, let's sum this up. As with anything, there are positives and negatives with the i91. The negatives for me mostly surround the visor mechanism and its refusal to stay a little bit open so I can allow some air in. The fact the chin vent is a bit weak as well doesn't help, as a stronger flow of air through there would reduce the need to keep the visor open anyway. Only you'll know how important that is to you. I reckon it'd be mostly if you wear glasses and ride all year round, or you ride on early mornings where misted specs are a bit of an issue. So if that is you, the i91 does have the potential to annoy you. While we're doing the negatives, it is also a bit on the heavy side in pure numbers terms, but I found the balance to be pretty good in use. In pretty much every other way, my feedback about this helmet is positive. It's simple to lift and lower the chin bar, and the lack of a locking switch gives me reassurance that that chin bar is going to stay raised if I ride with it open. Now that might sound weird, but I just don't use locking switches to force a chin bar to stay up, and I suspect very few people do, even though we all probably know we should. In fact, this one is more likely to stay up than a flip front that needs a switch is good news for me. The top vent on this helmet as well is excellent, as is the sun visor. Intercom compatibility is pretty good. The HJC units work well, and the basic ones are well priced. Universal comms aren't a total pain to fit either. And as I just said, overall value for money, in my opinion, is very good. The i91 is a cut above the basic flip fronts, as long as you're not someone who wants to ride at any speed with the visor slightly open. I hope that tells you everything you wanted to know about the HJC i91, but if there is anything you'd like to ask or to add, then please pop a comment below. Thanks for watching.